We've been talking about a few things that we have been covering here so far. One of them is that I have not riffed on, and I want to right now, very briefly, and then we'll pick up your calls, is this growing meme, this growing thought virus on the part of the Reich that Islamic terrorism is this great threat to the world, and that President Obama, by refusing to call these terrorists Islamic terrorists, is somehow failing to acknowledge the real problem. Now, this is not only a talking point from the Republicans, it's even, there have even been some progressives saying this. I would like to remind you that Hitler had his own official church. Bishop Mueller was elevated to being he was the Reichsbishop. He was the head of the German church. It was a Protestant, Bishop Mueller, I believe, had been a Catholic bishop. I'm not, maybe he was Protestant, but anyhow, Hitler made him number one. And after World War II, at the end of the war, when Bishop Mueller saw what had happened in the name of Nazism, he committed suicide. But Hitler constantly invoked Jesus. Did anybody refer to the Nazis as Christian terrorists? For example? I mean, we had General Boykin out there talking about my God is bigger than their God back in 2002, 2003 when we were invading Iraq and Afghanistan. I guarantee you that some of those folks that, whose country we invaded and whose families we killed think of us as Christian terrorists. But here's the thing. By not putting a religion with the word terrorist, President Obama is doing something very sophisticated and very smart. And these idiots at Fox So-Called News and on the right-wing hate radio, who are all bent out of shape about the fact that the president will not say Islamic terrorists, are so wrong. And here's why. When you call them terrorists, when you call them criminals, you are correctly identifying who they are and what they are, and you are stripping from them the ability to claim that there's a rationale for their behavior. I mean, if you think that their behavior is secular, that they're just trying to stop people from invading their country, you call them freedom fighters, right? Or rebels. And in fact, there was some reasonable reporting that was done during our occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan, where reporters would occasionally refer to the people who were coming after our soldiers as rebels, as separatists, as, things that talked about their ultimate goal, as opposed to simply enemy or terrorists. But the ones who are, in particular Boko Haram and ISIS, the ones who are using the name of one of the world's great religions to justify their action, when we go along with that, which is what Fox News is doing. ISIS put in a mind-boggling amount of effort and time and money into creating a 20-minute propaganda video that included the murder by burning him to death, of the Jordanian pilot. Now, our government has chosen not to show that video. We don't. I mean, the ISIS created a PR video. This is their public relations work. This is their propaganda. So we said, as a government, we said, no, we're not going to put that out there. And NBC looked at this and said, no way, we're not going to run this. We are not shills for ISIS. ABC looked at it and said, no, we're not shills for ISIS. We will not put this up. CBS looked at it and said, no, we're not shills for ISIS. CNN, MSNBC, no, we're not going to shill for ISIS. We're not going to do their public relations work. They put a lot of work into this video. They want people to see it. We are not going to help them make that happen. And then comes Fox So-Called News. And Roger Ailes makes the decision, hey, let's put it on our website and let's show it on the air, or at least a good chunk of it. Now, why would he do that? Why would Fox do what ISIS wants? Well, I would submit to you that it's the exact same reason why George W. Bush did what bin Laden wanted. Bin Laden was attempting, his famous letter where he said, all I have to do is just wave the flag of Al-Qaeda and Bush is so stupid he'll send troops halfway across the world. And he literally was calling out George W. Bush. This guy will do anything I tell him to, which was true. The last thing bin Laden wanted would have been to have been treated as a criminal by saying that he was the head of an Islamic band of terror. I mean, you elevate him. You give him credibility. You give a patina of rationale to what he's doing. These guys are thugs. They're criminals. They're not Islamic anything, any more than Hitler's Nazis were Christian anything. But Fox So-Called News and the right, I mean, I've had now 3 right-wingers as guests on this program and on radio program and on television and on my TV show, where they have said, well, so-and-so seems more concerned about Islamic terrorism or Islamic radicalism than Obama, which is the Fox News way of saying Obama's not going to use those words. Well, he's not going to use those words because those are the words that they want him to use. But, trust Fox So-Called News not to understand that and their viewers not to understand that. And the result of this, Fox So-Called News doing the work of ISIS.